Welcome to the Whisky Stories Podcast.
I always have to talk about it. The liquid was brilliant.
Of course,
that's the thing. It's like,
Stands up.
it has to be both.
Yeah, of course.
And you don't become the biggest single malt in the world without having both. So if there's anyone from Glenfiddich or Bladnoch who has any 1950s casks lying around that don't taste like what they should do,
That's so
it
cool.
probably is
It was
Glenfiddich.
made in.
It was made in
Yeah,
Glenfiddich.
yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's mental.
So in my family, all the men worked in the distillery, and all the women got proper jobs. So they're all doctors and lawyers. They're the clever ones. And all the men just worked in the distillery.
Welcome along to the Whisky Stories Podcast with myself, Graeme. We are back in the athletic arms, back in the diggers, and sandwiched nicely between the gents' toilets and the bar. There's no Angus, there's no Ross. It's just me and you, Chuck.
Hello, how are you?
And I'm very well. How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah.
You're okay?
Yeah.
You're okay now?
It's been a hard day for him.
It has been a hard day, but
not
as
been
ever,
ideal.
we do need somebody that knows what they're talking about when it comes to whiskey. So we do have our guest this evening, Dougal Gordon. Dougal, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you very much. We've had a couple of drams
We have.
waiting on Chuck to arrive.
Yeah, he took longer than we needed, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We're forgiving him.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good evening.
We
So
certainly have.
thanks for having me.
No, thank you very much for coming along. Welcome along to Whisky Stories Podcast. It's very nice to have met you tonight. It's very nice to see you. So for people listening back home, who are listening anyway, not back home, but people who are listening going, who's this guy? Right,
Yeah.
Dougal, who are you? Tell us who you are.
It's a very good question. I'm very lucky that I'm the Glenfiddich brand ambassador here in Scotland. I'm also the founder of the company's great-great-great-grandson.
Wow.
So,
So you're in the fam.
Yeah, I'm in the fam.
Wow.
I'm in the fam. I'm very lucky to be so. I forget sometimes which grant it is, but great it is. But it's an honour to be here. So thank you very much for having me. I know it's taken us a while to get the date in the diary, but appreciate you having me on.
And
the show.
I think it was maybe episode 3 or 4 when we did say for the very first time that sponsorship opportunities are available. And then I actually looked straight down the camera and said, even just a Glenfiddich t-shirt. So you've brought Glenfiddich t-shirts in with you tonight.
You know what? If you become a heavy at the Braemar Games, you get one. But anyone else is
I'm
very
working
tough.
on that. I'm working on that.
You definitely are, yeah.
But no, well, thank you so much for coming along. As I say, we've chatted a few times, and big fans of Glenfiddich on the pod, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
You a keen Glenfiddich drinker?
Yeah, I mean, I hated Glenfiddich purely because Cam loved it so much at work, but I do love Glenfiddich.
Well, yeah, Cam, who
The
Cameron
number one,
Ewan,
yeah.
big
Yeah.
Scotch Cam. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the Glenfiddichs that he's got
Yeah.
in his cupboard.
yeah, phenomenal collection.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I was actually, we were just chatting before we started recording. I've got the book here, the Whisky Stories Journal, which one day, if I get my spelling right, we'll print this.
Be recreated in 100 years as a tome.
Yeah, but do you think it'll be like Alfred
I
Barnard's?
don't think it will be, no. But you gotta have a dream, mate.
Yeah,
you gotta have a dream.
Think Finn Thompson's great grandson will be like, and this is actually an original of
Yeah.
Graeme Cogaer's Whisky Stories Podcast Journal.
Recreated to really show dyslexia.
Exactly. I mean,
It still wasn't cured, so it's okay. Yeah.
There's some really.
Don't worry, I've got it too, so it's okay. I'm allowed to say it. Oh, here we go. Good.
Bunnahabhain and
Yeah.
all this kind of
Glengarry,
stuff.
yeah, you're not going to get that one.
The
Yeah,
words
yeah,
are
yeah,
cause.
yeah.
But it's all spelt phonetically, my phonetically
Well done.
as well. But
Right,
no,
yeah.
but I would say it's a source of frustration that maybe Glenfiddich hasn't appeared too much in the What 3 Jams category. But what I can say is because, like say, you're Glenfiddich brand ambassador, but you're a member of the William Grant and Sons family, is that Balvenie Caribbean cask
Yeah.
features so much
Yeah.
as people's What 3 Drams. One of them, because they just see it as, I don't know, is it a gateway whiskey for people? Is it a whiskey that's, I would say it's a whiskey that's common enough for so many people, to reach so many people, but still slightly obscure enough. So when
Exactly.
you're drinking it,
Yeah.
you think you're drinking, or you feel like you're drinking something a little bit more rare and exclusive.
Well, it's almost said in the same terms as like your dad's friends. Like, have you heard of the McCallum? It's like, have you heard the Balvenie?
Yeah.
You're gonna get that.
I think there's two things to that in a way that sometimes Glenfiddich can be a victim of its own success
Yes.
in a way, and Balvenie also both fantastic liquids, but has a sort of maybe more connoisseuring
Yes.
brand about it. And so when people come to like knowing the bigger brands, they may shy away from it. And then we have Balvenie in that side with who have creating cask finishing and from in the 80s with David Stewart. And when I talk to people about if you have to go visit one distillery, because you've been to so many, and you think once you've seen one, you can see them all. Obviously,
I
love going to see different distilleries, and I will go and visit. And I haven't visited as many as I would like, but I'm going to keep pushing. I'm on 16 or something, which is rookie numbers, I think.
Well, they're more than me. I mean, like you say, this is where on the pod we've often discussed. Like, I have had that opinion previously that how can you make the same thing from the same three ingredients?
From 3 different ingredients. That's it. That's why I think how Scotch is amazing. In that, when I talk to people, obviously there's great spirits around the world, but Scotch is so controlled in a way that you've only got 3 ingredients and we all taste different. Yeah. And that's what almost is the most magical thing about it, personally, for me, and how we do it. And again, talking about Balvenie, if you're going to go see a distillery, you can go to Balvenie because you can see from grain to bottle, basically on site. Brilliant. Now, not everything is obviously grown on site. We don't do all of the entire maltings there, but if you want to see real craft and see how they made whiskey back in the day, it was modern in the 1940s. You know what I mean? And now it's this sort of like way of doing things. And I think from a family point of view, having both is great because we talk about Glenfiddich later on, but absolutely, big place, beautiful, and then you've got this other side of it. Whereas Balvenie might not be as efficient to actually run it like that, but because we have both, and we wanted to keep those craftspeople and those craftspeople alive, it's been very important. From my grandpa and his brother, they've always wanted to create that, and we still hold on to that today. So that's really important to us.
And of course, it was was it not a Christmas morning that they were all taken out to build that? I take it Christmas is around at your house,
exactly.
a bit.
Exactly.
Lumping big stones to try and build a distillery nice and quick.
Well, I always make the joke that William Grant had 9 children because he wanted some free cheap labour to build this distillery.
It's a similar story with like Garvin as well. It was not made in like 2 years.
It was less. It was a year.
Right.
Well, we're going to. I mean, I have to actually say, just on another subject on the fact that with I was thinking about this on the way in, and teaspooned drams have been something that we've talked an awful lot about recently as well, because we had on episode 100 a couple of weeks ago, Ross produced a Wardhead.
Yes.
Now, Wardhead, he asked, what is Wardhead? I was able to go, that is teaspooned Glenfiddich with Balvenie. Now,
correct.
Teaspooned Balvenie with Glenfiddich is Burnside.
Yes. And if it's from Cadenheads, because they own the trademark.
Oh,
right. Here we go. New information.
Yeah.
No, but wait a minute. We had a whiskey sponge.
Well, Delphi have done a Burnside
27-year-old.
Well, go and get someone from Cadenheads on. They'll say. So when I went.
Well, we
have
tried to get someone from Cadenheads on this. So we will continue to say this until someone comes on and tells us. But
so they own the trademark for that style. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
No.
So I suppose it's all again, but sometimes these things become such in folklore that people use it.
Yeah.
And in a way, for an independent bottle, I can kind of understand how that. Unintentionally or not,
of course.
it comes about.
Yeah.
So
now, the other thing is the one, and I have to say, I was unsure about buying it at the time. I'm so glad I did buy it, and as of Saturday, we're recording this on Tuesday, it's nearly finished. When we were up in Dornoch and we were visiting the Thompson brothers, I was sort of pushed to buy a bottle. I'll describe the bottle first. It's got a lovely, as the Thompson brothers do, their labelling's fantastic. It's got curling stones on it. Now you'll know straight away, Dougal, what I'm talking about here. But it was a Dalrymple.
Dalrymple, yeah.
And I was like, what the hell's Dalrymple? Never heard of it. And then I was explaining it's teaspooned Ailsa Bay, which is another distillery owned by the William Grant and Sons. So it's a cracker, an absolute amazing cracker. I mean, really full body sherry, love it. Is Ailsa Bay normally peated?
Yes.
So this is unpeated.
Yeah, it's both. It's absolutely like we have brought it out as a brand. It's probably in sort of a bit of a subdued point in terms of branding, but in terms of whiskey production, it's a very big place, and it's one of these amazing sort of unique distilleries out there because it takes one person to run it. Okay,
really?
There's guys on shift. So there's 5 guys on shift. One person in the entirety of the distillery to do it because it was built in 2007. that did take 2 years. So maybe that's what you're thinking. 2007, and so it's still relatively young, but I think it's like the 5th biggest distillery in Scotland. Malt distillery. So, and that means we can use that to sell to other people. So the malt might go to other people. So if you want to do that, so that's and it came out as a brand, and it was all about really being sciencey and really geeky. Now that's great. I think maybe the problem is that we're the whiskey geeks here.
Yeah.
But in terms of global style, you know what? There's still a lot of educating to be done, and I think it didn't quite, resonate with maybe the wider audience. But really interesting liquid, and so fantastic. And
great liquid.
Yeah.
I remember when it first came out, and it was as you say, really going down the whiskey geekiness, and it was categorized as the first sweet peat dram.
That's right.
I think like 12 ppm.
Sweet parts per million we used to call it. Which was a fun thing.
And like the original bottles had a small amount of granite from the granite deposit where all the curling.
Yeah,
because that's where all the curling. That's the key. That's the
Ailsa Craig.
We were really lucky at Scotch when we had the bar's 3rd birthday. James McCree, I think, was still the rep for in the UK. He's now in Australia doing. I think he's the Hendrix rep over there. But he gave us like 2 cask samples, which we did a whiskey tasting for old, present, and new. And that was our example of a new distillery along with something else. But great liquid, really love it.
Well, it's funny because as we're recording this, we're a few weeks before it'll be going out. But I was writing the newsletter, and I wrote this paragraph about 100 times, and it was basically episode 100, 5 things I've learned from doing a whiskey podcast. The first thing was always back up. Because I've deleted 2 episodes by mistake. But it goes through. But the last, number 5, and I couldn't get the right title and the heading for it, and I stuck with it. But basically, it was the heading was, lesson number 5 is we are the minority. Right? And see, when you say that, you sound like, oh my God, what's he going to burst into right now? But we are, and I think what's happened is I've found myself surrounded by too many people like yourselves. Now, since doing the podcast, where I've learnt a hell of a lot of information the last 2 years, and I'm now in circles of whiskey drinkers where talking about teaspoon is so easy. Yeah. And I've used the Dalrymple, I've used that for giving to people as a drink and stuff like that. I'm saying, try this, you'll absolutely love it. It's fantastic. And then I'll say off the cuff, it's a teaspoon Ailsa Bay. I don't know what it's teaspooned with.
I'm not sure either. It's a good question. I'll find out for you.
But basically, I'll say I'll use it as a throwaway comment. It's a teaspoon. Which makes it technically a blended malt. And people go, first of all, I've had some people go, blended malt.
Is it a blend?
What does that mean? And I'm saying, oh right, shit. Now I need to almost. I've taken it for granted that the people who, and these are people that like a dram. These are people that go, I enjoy a dram, but it's people that haven't bothered to go as mental as we have into, let's just, instead of just drinking a dram and enjoying it, we have to have this, what does that mean? What's that do? What's this? So basically what I was trying to say in that paragraph, if you subscribe to the newsletter, is basically, I found myself being, because it's easy, and from a marketing point of view, and I'd be interested to speak to you from that point, is, you've already mentioned that, you could try and appeal to that tiny little niche. It's not going to sell an awful lot of bottles. Whereas, like you say, a Glenfiddich 12, for example, you'll see everywhere around the world. Yeah. So it's interesting that. But we do have drams in front of us. I've got 2. Chuck, you've got 2 as well. What are you dramming?
I've got from the new batch of mystery malts. I got a 4-year-old Rassi.
Nice.
I think it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's a winner when they get that bottle. But out of the ones I've tasted so far, probably not my favourites. But cool to taste.
Yeah.
Just even for a Rassi, quite unusual, I thought. Yeah. And I'm assuming unpeated Rassi.
I do like their stuff. I think it's like for a young distillery, they've been creating a lot, and I've always got a bit of a sweet spot for them because during COVID we did a tasting with them. The online thing that everyone was doing. Yeah. But they were so young, they didn't even have any whiskey yet. So it's like different cask samples or new make spirit, and it was really good. But it was like I just wanted to try it, and then when it came out, I was surprised because I think when you talk about new young whiskey, it can always be a bit
I mean, I've had some really
bit pokey.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what they're doing is quite interesting. But
well, no, I've had some really good ones from them. I think just for me, this is it's an unusual.
I had it on Sunday. I would say
Yeah.
I'd probably agree with you on that one. But on the subject of the mystery malts, another huge successful release from the Thompson brothers
crazy.
on that. And the fact is, and I watched the video of the two of them opening a flagon.
I watched that video too. Yeah,
They have this perfect dynamic where Simon was chatting away, and whilst he's chatting, with two people chatting down to camera. Who thought of that idea? But trying about whiskey down to camera, but at the same time,
Phil's just like digging away.
Phil's digging away, and what was great is it worked so perfectly. Was I was watching him be like, "Is he going to get that? Is he going to get that stopper out?" At the same time, Simon was explaining everything that he was explaining. But one of the things that I really think has been hugely successful for the mystery malt has been their use of younger whiskey and new distilleries. And I think from a marketing point of view, it's very difficult for your Glenwives's, Rassay's, and some of the other ones that they're working with. I mean, the Glenwives one from the last release was absolutely cracking. I absolutely loved it. Torrevieja as well. They did the Torrevieja 7.
Yeah. Torrevieja was class.
Yeah, really, really good. But these are distilleries that, unless there'll be so many people, the mass whiskey market would probably go, I don't really want to drink a new whiskey because I don't know if I can trust it being that good. If you buy the mystery malt, tough, you've got it. And by the way, if you enjoy it, then great. You know, that's the most important thing. But right, Dougal,
come on.
Sorry. What? Are you, sorry, Chuck. You've got the first. That's your first dram. You've got all right. I've gone on brand.
Breathe, man. Breathe.
Sorry, I'm nervous. I'm really. I've just got so much Glenfiddich chat we need to get through.
He's just too excited. That's He's just too excited.
I am. I've got a Johnny Walker Ruby. I've just finished the Johnny Walker Ruby. I thought we'd give it a go. We
thought you got to try new stuff.
Smells good.
I thought the nose was good.
Very soft.
Yeah.
Very soft. But you know what? Easy.
It's kind of what you're expecting, I think.
Exactly.
So
I think if you were to pour it on your cornflakes.
I think you make some really good.
You wouldn't be jumping in the car.
Imagine that be like really good in like a Boulevardy riff or like an old fashioned kind of, or even like a Manhattan kind of thing.
The smell is fantastic. But I've gone on brand. I have now over the bar a bottle of Glenfiddich that you don't often see, and having just tasted it, Glenfiddich that you don't often taste. I've got the Glenfiddich vintage cask, and it's a peaty cask.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Glenfiddich peated. I don't think. Oh, I've never tried anything.
So
like Fire and Cane.
Fire and Cane. But so we do a week every year, like Balvenie. So they have a week of peat, which is a skew which they have, which is always great. And I think if I'm trying to get people into drinking peaty whiskey, I'll always go, well, instead of going straight to Islay, because obviously you get a lot of the iodines, medicinally side of it, which people just hate. Either try an Ailsa Bay, or you go for maybe a week of peat Glenfiddich, or you go for like some other Highland malt, which has got peaty version.
Yeah.
So because it's just a different type of
mainland peat just doesn't.
Exactly.
It's not as,
exactly. It's just a nice transition. And again, if you don't like that, then you're probably not going to enjoy the Islay ones. And that's each their own. I mean, I love an Islay whiskey, so I'm always keen for a bit of hospital, as I call it.
But you've not brought Glenfiddich t-shirts in with you, but we can forgive you because you've brought in an array of bottles, which
very unique. Yeah.
When Angus is missing this, unfortunately, but Angus and I always have a wee look at each other when a guest comes with a bag and that bag clinks. We're always a bit like, we're on here. Yeah. But you've poured us a dram. What are we drinking right now?
So I was in Cadenhead a few months ago actually, and I thought, this would be a good thing to buy for like a tasting or something. And it was I think it's a 27-year-old Ward Head. So we're talking about the teaspoon here. Reef. Let's see. It says it's a refill. Just says Bourbon's Hogshead.
That's delicious.
But it's lovely, isn't it? I mean, it's quintessentially Glenfiddich. So you get all those sort of pears. It's very floral. I think it's like this sort of baked apple, but not baked apple. Sort of fresh apple right off the tree. It's that green appley side of it. Again, floral sort of apple blossom as well. And then it's reasonable ABV, so it's 51.8. So it's a nice texture to it as well. So it's
lovely. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you. But when I was listening to the 100th episode, I was telling you, and they had talking about Ward. I was like, bring it on the bloody show. I want to do something different and been unique. And I was like, they're gonna have to deal with it. They're gonna have to play it.
If we're having
27-year-old.
more of this 27,
Yeah.
27-year-old single cask Glenfiddich teaspoon, albeit, but at the same time, I mean, because the thing about the teaspoon is you never know how much a teaspoon actually is. Is it a full teaspoon? Is it half a cask? Or is it said to be teaspooned?
I think you'd hope it is a teaspoon. I can't see why you would.
Angus
Otherwise, you're becoming a blender, right?
Of course, exactly. Angus did point out 15 millilitres is the teasppoon. Angus would be able to do that.
No, my baking's not that good. I wouldn't know.
Only Angus off the top of his head would be like, well, of course you know it's 15 millilitres.
Just imagine the one guy with a bunghole just like, Jesus.
I trust. But there we go. Lovely. And a cracking drop there. Thank you very much.
That's delicious,
There's a lot of full circles being finished off here. Glenfiddich was one of Angus's 3 drams on episode number 1. Chuck, we rekindled our friendship at Glenfiddich tasting.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really it took a little bit longer than that evening, because I don't think we actually chatted that night.
No, we didn't.
But
you scoffed at the words that came out of my mouth, but I don't think we actually talked.
Angus and I sat there at Glenfiddich tasting, put on by Mark Thompson when I was Glenfiddich brand ambassador, and he said, anyone got any tasting notes? We didn't know who this guy sitting. I could only see your back. You had a baseball cap on, as you usually do.
Yeah.
And you gave, I thought the tasting note was cola cubes in church pews.
Yeah.
To which Angus and I were like, who's this wank?
Not the first time I've heard that, but yeah.
And then it transpired that it was Chuck Kerr. Chuck Kerr, who we'd been at school. We were at school together. And then it wasn't long after that you disappeared off on your travels.
Yeah.
But we used that story, which started the feature of the wanky tasting on the podcast.
I genuinely think when I listened to the podcast for the first time was when Big Cam was on, Scotch Cam was on, and I was driving. I was in Japan at the time. And I was driving a car from Tokyo to Kagoshima, and I think I listened to his episode, and then I was like, oh, I'll listen to a few more of these. Ross is on the first one. And I think the genuine words that came out of your mouth was like, so I heard the worst tasting note I've ever heard from this absolute arsehole. And then just like ran me through the mud and then said that. And I think I messaged you guys and was like, that's not what I said. And you've hurt my feelings. And
I'm here,
and here I am, yeah.
But that was, so there's that. I mentioned earlier on, it was my first ever whiskey tasting as a fresh
adult,
a young fresh shaver. Again, Glenfiddich.
I'm still about that, mate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A Glenfiddich tasting, and again, there's something about the brand that is so easy to fall in love with. In fact, when you were talking about I thought you'd be better brand trained than you are, Dougal, because when you talked about we were talking about the 3 components of make whiskey. I thought you were going to go in, and of course the triangular bottle.
Yes,
of
exactly.
the Glenfiddich. I thought you were going to burst into that,
Yeah.
but it must. I mean, first of all, to grow up with that as family heritage. Wow. Could you? I'm putting you on the spot here. Could you talk us through the family history?
Sure.
Let's hear that.
Part 2 coming up.
Give us a quick. Give us a breakdown.
Yeah. So it's 1887, and this is when William Grant and his 9 children decided to build his distillery.
And sorry to interrupt already. Do you have any inclination why?
Yes.
Right. Good.
So, but we'll talk about William Grant initially. So he'd been working at Mortlake Distillery before then for about 26 years. So he was about 46 at the time when he got a telegram from Cardew from, I can't remember her name, but a lady who I think who helped run the place, and she said that these things were for sale, the stills and some of the kit. And he was like, okay, that sounds like a good opportunity.
Wow.
Right? Because they'd been saving up. So it wasn't just him. We were talking about William Grant a lot, but actually there's a lot of him and his family all going in together and trying to build it themselves. And he walked the 12 miles down to Cardew that day, went and bought it, and then walked the 12 miles back. Okay, so it's pretty much, there's a lot of commitment there.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So he knew he wanted. So he got all this secondhand stuff, and it got carted up because there was no trains, so it all got carted up, and then they started building. And so that it took them all about a year to do it. And the story is they only had a stonemason as their sort of expertise on the side to help them do it. And then on Christmas Day, as we talked about earlier. Christmas Day is always there's no Santa Claus in our house. It's always William Grant. They decided to have the spirit run from the stills, and I always, when I'm doing a tasting, I always tell the joke. Basically, that's because William Grant's quite a shrewd man, in that he knows that nothing ever gets fucking done in the first week of January. So, so he wanted to have it already start up and running. So that was sort of the deadline, and because people think it's very poetic, but no, it was something other. And so that was the start of it. And then for the first few years, so it's 1887. So the first 10 years, they made spirits and just sold it to blenders.
Yeah.
So they didn't do any blending themselves. So they got a shift out Aberdeen down to Edinburgh. And then the Patterson crash happened in 1898, I think it was. And they managed to, they weren't it's not the right word, but they weren't invested in that side of it that much. So they weren't hit by it as much as other people were. And it was at that point that William Grant says, I'm going to blend it myself.
Nice.
And so he was our first master blender.
Wow.
He then went on to we made Grants. Okay, so the distillery is called Glenfiddich because it's Gaelic for Valley of the Deer.
Yeah. 12-pointed stag.
You tell me that. I didn't know that either. And so from that point, blending himself, and again, it's all Grants. That was the product they sold at the time, and they would buy in the grain whiskey and they would blend themselves. Yeah. And then there's a few points in history which I'll talk. So we'll skip through quickly, but we talk about times during Prohibition, and for a lot of distilleries, First World War, Prohibition. Obviously, that time is particularly in Britain, pretty awful for everyone, not alone the distilleries themselves. So during those periods, there's rationing, but there's always this ethos of obviously trying to make as much spirit as possible, because it's sort of this long-term look. And so it was, William Grant died sadly early in 1920s, and so it was his sons who sort of carried on that mantra through Prohibition. And then when he came out of Prohibition in early 1930s, there was only something like less than 10 working distilleries in Scotland.
That's right, yeah.
Because they'd all shut down, and so two of them were Glenfiddich and Balvenie. So who had all the stock that could sell to a lot of the major markets. That was then. So that was a big moment in terms of us surviving, because you talk about 1930s to 1940s. We managed to carry on, and then Second World War happens. I go, obviously, dreadful time for everyone, and it was interesting. I was listening to a video of my grandfather and his brother, and they were talking about the Second World War was obviously awful. They were a bit too young to fight. They were a bit young, but they talked about that after the war in the 50s was almost worse in Britain because
the knock-on effect.
And that you had all this money from the US we were given. We had to pay it back, and so all the rationing was carried on. And it was really at this point that the business changed really forever, in a way that they decided to create something different. And this was selling Glenfiddich by itself, okay, outside of Scotland. Yeah. Because, probably since, 1930s, we did, and we were quite proud of it. There was a pure malt. Yeah. And you go into a local pub in the north of Scotland, and if you ask for a brand, they knew that you worked for the distillery, because people would just ask for whatever was there, and it blends and single malts. They're all.
So people would just say, "Can I get a whiskey?"
Yeah,
and they would just get given a whiskey. But if you actually came in and said,
"I wanted a Glendronach or a Glenfiddich or
they knew you worked for, you worked in the industry.
Yeah, and so it was all done from in-house. I was funny. My grandpa always talked about this. We were always really proud that we bottled on site, because you weren't allowed to bottle on site. For a lot of time, we were actually grandfathered in. So this is excise point. Okay? Right, okay. You weren't allowed to mash and distill on the same day.
Is that right?
Yeah. The excise men would open up the doors for you.
Because they always used to say that the two people that would have the keys would be the excise man and the distillery manager. Yeah. So, right. Okay, so, because this is the fascinating bit, is you've mentioned there, the bit that, again, I'm still, the history part of it, getting my head around is, you're right, so many distilleries, they were just spirit producing factories right up until probably Glenfiddich being one of them to start bottling on site to make that to start that trend. So beforehand it used to be we've had the guys from Gordon MacPhail on talking about they would send casks up to distilleries to get the new make spirit filled, and they would have grocers and other people doing that. So Glenfiddich were the first to bottle on site then, or
I'm not
one
sure
of
the first, but one of them. But again,
it
because it got grandfathered. So sorry, grandfatherings when
like a grandfather rights type thing.
Yeah. So yeah, when you've already been doing something, and then the things change, but so they don't have to let the government say you guys can do it, but no one else can because you've already been doing it, because they didn't trust they didn't trust any of the distilleries to tell them how much spirit they were making because of all the duty they would have to pay.
You've been above board, so we can continue later.
In theory, or and now you're not, but you can still carry on.
Yeah.
And so, but interesting but we only had to, we were only allowed to sell in cases of 5. So if you're a pub like a Diggers would have to buy 5 cases of Glenfiddich 12 or Glenfiddich at the time, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Now some people say that's not very good, but then if it was good quality stuff, then people would buy it, and they would also have to shift it because they bought 5 cases of it, which is pretty unheard of because generally it's just always sort of bottles at a time almost.
That's pretty
so that was actually quite lucrative for us. And again, in the 50s, rationing, all the distilleries were quoted, so you can only make so much.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so what we did was we went to some of our local other distilleries. I say local. One was Glendronach, one was Bladnoch.
Okay. Yeah.
Incredibly local.
But Glendronach, my grandfather and his brother, their cousins worked and owned Glendronach.
Okay.
So it's been a kind of, so some of my family have heritage at Glendronach as well. Now they've sold it since then. Yeah. But what we did is we would buy their quota from them, and we would take half the quota so we could have stock for our stuff, and we would make stuff for Glendronach. And so we would make spirit for Glendronach, and we would give it at cost price, so because it wasn't cost effective for them to do it themselves because it was so small. Right. So the operating costs. Oh. So if there's anyone from Glendronach or Bladnoch who has any 1950s casks lying around that don't taste like what they should do.
That's so cool.
It was made in
Glenfiddich.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's mental.
That's
Which and obviously this is before any of the SWA coming in and doing all the what is Scotch and what's all the rules. This is before the time where you could put anything on the bottle really, and so this is it's quite unique. So anyone out there just can find it.
So this is the point then. So now Glenfiddich are producing pure malt, which is what we know as single malt.
Well, I think lots of people are.
Lots
of people are doing it, but it's all North Scotland. And again, there's no differentiating between it. If you're in the pub, you ask for whiskey. It could have been a blend. It could have been a single malt.
Unless you knew what you were asking for.
Unless you knew what you were asking for.
Yeah.
And so, but again, it was this point where they thought, we wanted a product that we think our liquid is good enough, and is a bit more premium, because blends at the time, this is now late 50s. It's a bloodbath. I mean, it still is. You go to the supermarket now, the pricing point and everything, it's really difficult. And all the big guys, this is back in the day when people get around the table and they would tell everyone what they're going to price their whiskey at next year.
Oh, really?
You can't do that now. You get thrown in jail.
So it was effectively like a bit of a.
It's a cartel.
It was a bit of a firm, yeah.
Yeah. But it's not a cartel in the way that the big guys told the little guys, and we were the little guy. And so they would think, well, shit, we're not making bloody money. So they wanted to have a premium product that they could sell. And so what they did is they went to sell the Glenfiddich straight malt down in England. But what they had is they had Glenfiddich pure malt in North Scotland, which was cheaper.
Right.
Because they didn't want to offend their local customers and local local malt. And so, but what someone scooped this. Business individuals would go up to North Scotland, buy all the Glenfiddich, and then go sell it for the same price down south.
Well, entrepreneurs will be
entrepreneurs.
That's it,
exactly.
So you had straight malt and pure malt.
Yeah.
So straight malt sold in England.
I believe that's the case.
Pure,
yeah.
Now,
was it Grant straight malt, or was
there's
it
both? Again, this is before the time where everything came into like the lingo stuff is all quite confusing.
I think I bought a bottle of. One thing that I have that Big Cam was raging about is I bought a bottle of Grant's straight malt, but it was pre-Girvan being built, so it doesn't have Girvan on the label. And I still got the bottle actually. I haven't opened it.
It's funny. I was at the Whisky Show on the weekend, and I tried a 1930s Grant's for the first time, which was really unique. And it's just like history in a bottle. Trying those sort of things, like, it was very sort of grassy, and I enjoyed it. I can imagine it was quite good quality whiskey at the time.
Absolutely.
I think probably things have changed since then drastically, but as you can imagine.
I mean, techniques and palettes and everything.
Exactly.
So when is this? Okay, so when's the infamous or the famous? Well, first of all, going back, I take it I've read a lot about the DCL guys, Distillers Company Limited, and they have been quoted as being cartels, a cartel in the whiskey industry, basically kind of making the decisions for the greater of the industry, but at the same time it's because DCL owns so much of the industry.
Like the shepherds of the whiskey industry.
Shepherds, there you go, yeah. But when was the time when the company made a decision to put the advert out, the famous adverts for single malt? You'll never stand for a blind again was the famous. Was it New York Post?
Yeah.
They put the advert in, and there was loads of others where basically what William Grant and Sons were doing were effectively saying that the blend is the sort of whiskey drinker's drink, but the single or the pure malt is the connoisseur's drink, which is mental because you own Grant's and you own Glenfiddich, so to be able to actually say you're cutting your nose off to spite your face in one sense.
I suppose at the time it was maybe out of necessity that they wanted to build a brand, and again, before they launched it down south, they were getting inquiries for it because like we do today, we bring trade people in who are potential buyers. So they come to the distillery, we have a nice time. And same again then. And people were like, oh, this single malt's quite nice. So can we have it? Can we have a bottle? I was like, I suppose. And so it was almost like drips and drabs, and people got the word out, and then thought, actually, okay, let's go for it and actually do it properly. And at the time they probably didn't realize it, but they were building a brand. Grant's took the triangle bottle first, and then they put it onto Glenfiddich. I mean, they tried to put it on Balvenie as well.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, there's a triangle of Balvenie.
Balvenie, 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
Really cool.
It's got leather.
Black label.
It's a black leather. It's a black leather label.
It's great liquid, by the way.
Very interesting.
So good.
So they've tried, and then Glenfiddich sort of stuck, and this was the sort of point. Hans Schlegel was the designer. He did like the London Underground sign, and the Puffin Book sign. Wow. So they're quite iconic.
So iconic. Then.
I mean, the most iconic is the Glenfiddich, obviously.
Yeah.
Because you're right. The cynic will. So the marketing. Conversation is that it's the three sides. It's the three pillars of Scotch whisky: water, yeast, barley, etc. But there's also the element of it fits very well. Triangular bottles fit in boxes very well.
I generally thought it was always to reduce breakage.
I think there's some adverts of like on a boat or a lorry. There's always anecdotes of the lorry driver who doesn't fall off his passenger seat when he's driving around the countryside of Speyside. So so there's all sorts of things that do, and and it doesn't clink when you have it under your bed. So,
where are those adverts these days?
Exactly. No, that would definitely not get part of the marketing guys today.
Drink responsibly.
Always.
Here's a triangular bottle.
Always.
I think we could probably stick now. Glenfiddich won't try and do us if we stick that as a Whiskey Stories bottling.
All right, yeah.
Just say it will clink if it's
it will clink.
It's
it's a clinker, yeah. Well, talking about responsible drinking, another thing, don't drink and drive, okay?
Yes.
So this is a good segue onto this one. We're talking about marketing and side of things. This is our new partnership with Aston Martin, and obviously very exciting for us. I think I knew a day before it came out, so I'm not really that much in the know, okay?
Yeah.
So just FYI.
So were you not at the big fancy, was it Hollywood? Was it where they did the big fancy launch? Were you not invited along to that?
I'm too expensive, mate.
Were you?
Yeah. Only first class. No, I'm joking. I was definitely not invited, but that's okay. And I think, sometimes for me personally, family member, but again, it's not, try not to take the piss. It's like I get enough opportunities anyway, and so I try not to ask to go do things if I. But I always say yes if you asked.
I mean, I suppose it's
just like this podcast. I mean, it did take a while.
Of course. Well, your fees are But I would say, because you probably have two choices to make, and this is on a personal front. Thank you very much. This is on a personal front from you, rather than a sort of question about the brand or anything like that. You probably have two decisions to make. Where if you are born into a family like William Grant and Sons, the Grant family, you could easily sit back and go, "That's me. I'm gonna dine out. I'm gonna drink whiskey that people will live a lifetime and never get to drink. I'm going to go and see places. I'm going to do this and that next thing." But you've made a conscious effort. You've made a decision to get into the family business. And is there family members who have made conscious efforts not to be in the family business?
I think there's I think it's each their own. If you want to, there's always opportunities.
Because there's a lot of pressure. I mean, because this is the problem you have is with family businesses.
As a guy who's worked in a family business, it's not always easy. You know, like there's families are tough.
Everyone's got different problems.
Mine was my father, but I don't know about you.
No,
shout out to Mister.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't know a podcast.
No.
We're fine.
No, Dad, you're all right. Thank you.
But I mean,
he's a great man.
We spoke to Stephen Rankin, Gordon MacPhail, another huge whiskey family, and he talked about that. He said there's cousins and there's brothers and sisters and what have you who didn't go into the family business, and there's plenty of them that did, but also they were very conscious of the fact that I think the Rankin family and everything were sure to make if you want to get into the family business, you have to go and learn, come in. It's not a birthright. It's not something that you have just because you're born into this. You're given. And to be perfectly honest, what is it? How many family businesses survive after the second or the third generation? If you look at a family business that survived 4 or 5 generations, it means that they take it very, very seriously, because it would have been very easy. I think. What is it that one of the sayings is? It's like one generation earns the money, the other generation spends the money, and vice versa. You go through on it. So how many generations are we in?
So well, in terms of working the business, 6th. So I'm 6th generation.
So you're 6th generation. So
wow.
So your great grandfather was pretty set up a good foundation, but it's probably everybody else that came after that has ensured that you can't just walk in here because Glenfiddich it could have gone.
I mean, you speak about what happened in the 50s. That was an innovation, after the starting of the business, and the fact to do those brandings to even get people in to make iconic designs on bottles or completely change how they thought the business would operate.
Well, that's what at the time they were thinking we have to we have USP, because people don't understand what the difference between single malt and blended whiskey is. It was all one thing, and so that was they probably didn't quite say it as brand building, but that's exactly what they were doing. And and again, I always have to talk about it. The liquid was brilliant.
Of course,
that's the thing. It's like,
up.
it has to be both.
Yeah, of course.
And you don't become the biggest single malt in the world without having both. So.
So when did you personally make the decision that this was the direction that you wanted to go into?
Well, so I've always been interested in it. I remember first trying whiskey maybe at Christmas Day, probably shouldn't say what age it was, but it was youngish. But it was a wee dram, and it was one of those wee thistle glass. The ones that your wife would say they're absolutely horrid. But I remember I remember drinking it and think, oh, that's really horrid. But I'll enjoy it. I'll put on a straight face and it'll be good. And then after that, I'm quite keen on my biochemistry. So obviously that is making whiskey. I'm not sure if I'm keen on biochemistry because of whiskey or the other way around. But I then went and did biochemistry at Leeds, which I thoroughly enjoyed, more the Leeds part than maybe the biochemistry. And I thought, it was probably that point after uni, because during the summers I would go work at Gervin in the lab.
Okay.
So I'd go work and check on the fermentations, the efficiencies of it. We're talking about grist. Oh Christ! Yeah. Oh, I'm an expert there.
Big on the grist,
But it was you could change, if you change 1% efficiency at that point, it's could be £100,000 saving. For when it's the scale of that. So there's a lot of things. And
did you have a wee grist box that you would sugar?
Angus
is a big fan of the sugar box. He was good at that.
We were at Rosebank, were you?
We were at Rosebank, Angus. We made
I saw the sweat eking out on his forehead.
Yeah, he really wasn't. He put on a brave face when we were doing it, but I kept.
So this is not what I signed up for. I signed up to sit down and do the claps.
No, but Angus is slowly but surely managing to tick off loads of little jobs.
So that was his responsibility.
That's his job.
That's his building it up. Okay.
We've got it's never surfaced. I don't know if I've still got the footage of it, but it was early days with these microphones and their lapel clipped. I think I've told this before, but Edinburgh Whisky Festival was on Saturday there as we're recording this, and it was the second when we were at Edinburgh Whisky Festivals last year. Angus got to go at building a cask. There was a cooperage section there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really cool. So Angus, and it's such a shame because he had the leather apron on and everything like that. But the problem was I clipped one of these mics onto Angus, and they were going straight into the camera, which meant that I can't remix it or edit it or anything like that. But I was walking around with two of these, speaking to people and sort of interviewing people.
Yeah.
So I'm chatting away to somebody, be like, and I'm watching this video back, and I'm chatting away to somebody saying, "What do you think? You know, how are you enjoying today?" And etc. And all you can hear in the back is like, it's just Angus's mic. And it's like, and you're like, Jesus Christ, and the boys are like, no, you need to bang that, you need to hammer that down. So, but we can never release it. Just grunting.
Sound quality is poor.
Yeah.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
But right, back on track.
So I did that for a while, and I think I came to the end of my degree, and I thought, you know what, I enjoy myself, but it probably isn't going to be a long-term thing for me to work in the lab in that environment. I think I like the idea of it. I like knowing about it, I like learning about it, but as a day-to-day, it wasn't for me. And so at that point, as one does, I just moved to Mumbai.
Nice.
Yeah.
You've been out to India?
Yeah, I lived there for a year, which was fantastic. Loved it. Crazy place. I mean,
gateway of India, eh? What a place.
Yeah, I'm like it makes London look like Kirkcaldy.
Yeah,
in terms of like,
well, we'll take it.
I meant in terms of population density, but yeah.
Nothing else. The Shard in Kirkcaldy is a really good place to go for a drink.
So, but well, talking about India, about drinks, yeah, some of the whiskey out there, I would say. Sorry. Let's move back. There's some excellent whiskey distilleries in India now. Amra and a few others. I've tried the whiskey jet. Yeah, really good. I mean, but some of the local ones that sponsor some of the IPL teams are just.
Royal Challenger is a challenge. We've tried them. We had Royal Stag.
I don't think I wasn't there for that.
We're not here for that. No. Royal Stag.
I've still got the bottle.
Yeah, we've because I go to India regularly. I was in Mumbai earlier a few months ago, and I brought some smaller bottles back. There's some crackers out there. There's some great whiskey. Some really good whiskey, but there's also some not so great whiskey.
And I think I don't want to. I'm not here to bash brands, but particularly as the tariffs have gone down. So
yeah, exactly.
So it's quite good. It's quite because India is, in inverted commas, the biggest whiskey market in the world.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Which is crazy. Obviously, they can't sell most of it outside of India, but as whiskey. But in terms of their like enthusiasm for it, amazing.
And when you look at the brands, like you say, I mean, I go twice a year to India, and you look on the back bar. In fact, I'll always. I've said this to Ross earlier today. In fact, Glenfiddich 15 is one of my favourite whiskies. It's like two things. Number one, I think it's a great gifting whiskey.
Yeah,
it's a really good whiskey to give somebody. It's got a great story about the Solera cask system, but it's just a very, very good stand-up solid dram.
Yeah,
really good. And I always end up spending way over the odds. I don't even know what I'd probably spend, about £25 for a dram of Glenfiddich 15 whilst I'm over there, just because of tax. When you're out and about, and if I see a Glenfiddich 15 on the bar, but that iconic green triangular bottle travels all around the world. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's the thing about it. It's like, as you say, at the back bar, you try and find Glenfiddich 12. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
it's easy peasy.
And you're sitting there, and it isn't until you look at a country like India.
Yeah.
Where you see, right, it's the big guys that are in there.
Yeah.
So you've got your
Johnny Walker
Valentine's, Shivas, you've got
Duras or something.
Glenlivets are up there.
Our Big Ten.
Not even you wouldn't. Glenmorangie, you'd see
in India.
Glenmorangie
in India.
Sorry. In India.
I've never been.
But like I say, but then and there is an element of, and I almost hold it. It's weird, and this is where brand loyalty is such a big thing. And when you look at people who really do get into a brand, Glenfiddich, I almost feel such an affinity because I'm like family owned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not a PLC, sorry. You're not one of the big guys. You're not owned by a massive, huge, big organisation.
Yeah.
Even though you are. a big, huge, massive organisation, but you're just family. You're family owned, so you're almost a bit like, can yourself.
Well, exactly, and that's what I try to tell people. You get people just like, I had at the Whisky Show. I was working there. It was 2 weekends ago, and it's like, are you guys Diageo? I was like, no, actually, no, we're independent owned, actually. And I'm not there sprouting the family personal side of it. I'm just there like, oh, this is the new Aston Martin 16 or whatever it might be. So this is that's
By the way,
that's what we do.
What is this? Talk us through this.
Okay, yeah. So
You go phew every time you drink.
I was going to say the bad joke. You must know the bad joke about it. What's the fastest town in Scotland?
Nairn.
Sorry.
And
also sorry to everyone who lives in Nairn. They hate it. I know from personal experience. They hate it. Exactly. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Because I nearly went to the and it's got a whiskey connection with Cameron Bridge. They say what's the best thing about Fife? They say leaving.
Yeah. There you go. Very good.
Right. So tell us about this draft.
So sponsoring Aston Martin, this is our limited edition 16-year-old. It's all American oak. Okay, so there's first fill, refill, and then there's American oak wine casks. So it's
awesome.
Yeah, so it's quite. I think it's one of those things that needs to slightly open up. 43%, easy peasy. But what I'm really proud about it, I think the last few years at Glenfiddich we've had some exceptional. We're going to try one, not to spoil anyone, but I'm going to try one of them from the last few years. But the price point's been quite high, and so maybe not accessible for just the general consumer. This is 16-year-old, 75 quid. Sort of current market. I think it's the brand guys have really nailed this one in terms of liquid, and I think the packaging is great. Obviously, we talk about Glenfiddich packaging. It's always quite fun. So yeah.
And you know what, associating yourself with brands and things like that, you look at Aston Martin and you see that market that opens up the Formula One and stuff like that as well.
Well, that's the big thing. It's like Formula One. It's the one sport that my wife and my mother know more than me about.
Really,
easy peasy. Maybe tennis, but
easy peasy, man. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, you look at the Netflix documentary. That's what it's done. It's accelerated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's what my mum and my wife.
They used the word accelerated. Sorry.
Definitely.
But honestly, it's fantastic. But I would say that Formula One is a global brand, Aston Martin of course and that, but podcasting is a big one, and we've got listeners all over the world as well.
That's it.
So I think I think maybe a couple of
you see,
Whisky
Stories Aston Martin podcast.
I'm thinking of Glenfiddich Whisky Stories.
I'm joking.
I have to say, I'm really surprised of the cask maturation on that, because I would not have thought that to be wine cask maturation.
Well, wine cask been a big part of Glenfiddich's story over the last 10 years or so. I mean. The wine cask stuff.
It has been quite a few different, but not like I would. I agree.
I saw someone being critical of it maybe a couple of years ago, or a year ago, and I can't remember. I think it was pointing in the direction of a Glenfiddich release, a Grand Cru, whatever, and their argument was: is Scotch losing its identity of Scotch, trying to keep up with everybody else? Scotch is built on bourbon, sherry, and just that kind of cask maturation, and this is what Scotch is, and let everybody else chase us. But on the flip side of that, when you're Glenfiddich and you have the access to the wood that you guys will have, I mean, there must be some fantastic cask finishes and what have you your cask maturation programs and what have you. But is wine an avenue wine casks an avenue that Glenfiddich have made a big choice to go down?
I think there's a few things in that. One, in bourbon, currently the sales are quite flat. Okay, so you've got the bourbon industry flat. Scotch, even though maybe at the moment it's a bit ropey, whatever it might be, but generally it's been growing quite significantly. So then you've got all these casks that people want to buy from the bourbon industry because they have to. It's over 2 years. Right, the demand goes up and the supply goes down.
Yeah.
So the price goes up of those casks. So it's also, I think this is not just for us. I actually don't know if this is a reason for us, but from an industry point of view, more people will be buying European casks, and there'll be a lot of wine casks as well.
There's a lot of wine casks that just get thrown away as well.
Yeah. And that's, so potentially, so that's probably a reason. I think again, this was done 16 years ago, So there's got to be some. Well, I better be careful. You think I would know my products, wouldn't you? But
It's a 16.
It's
Sure,
16, yeah.
you know, but I don't know if it's I don't know if it's been finished in the wine cask. I'm pretty sure it's both. So yes, definitely. I think they'll be using that. Again, we don't do a lot of solely straight European. That's just classic Glenfiddich. About 80% of our casks inside are bourbon.
Right.
And so there's less, and every year, so the guys in the casks buyer, they have a 10% budget just to go buy whatever they want as like experimental stuff.
Yes.
Right. Now that's not 10% of all the casks, because obviously they'll be the most expensive stuff. And,
Of course.
Yeah.
And I was chatting to some guy who knows what happened. I just sent on, but a Japanese company, one of them had a family company which is similar age to us, who did soju, and hopefully might be getting some soju casks. Wow. But then I just hand over the email. Who knows what happens? So we're going to fire it on and see what happens. So that's my.
But then
I do have to say, it is an interesting one, because Glenfiddich is so like worldwide available that you do kind of forget about it. But then you also forget that it's a company that's kind of pushed the envelope for a really, really, really long time.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the 12 is like absolutely fantastic, but they did 21-year-old in rum cask way before then. Yeah. The experimental series, IPA for me is one of like the best experimental bottles.
I didn't like it at the time I tried it, and I need to go back. And I think
I did the exact same, because I had the Project 20, and I was like, this is for me. This is the one. And I think Batch 2 came out, and all I could think about was IPA. Like, I just thought it was great. And number 5 as well. Sorry to keep on talking over you.
No.
But the Orchard Experiment.
Oh, the Orchard one was
the amount of people I've been like, I don't drink whiskey, what should I get? Well, I was like, it's summer. It was summer at the time. It's not now. Yeah. But I was like, just get that. Get some soda water.
Apples,
Just forget that you have work tomorrow and just enjoy yourselves.
No, it's another one where you look back and you go, going back to our earlier point, we're the minority. And I think that it's easy. I don't drink enough Glenfiddich because I know it's there. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like,
I know
it's there. And I know that you come in a pub like Diggers and you look around and you go, why would I go for a Glenfiddich when I could go for one of these and things like that? And it must be a real pain, because it's easy for us who are maybe, like I say, in that minority of whiskey geeks and whiskey people and all that, where I remember being at a Glenfiddich tasting, and it was poorly attended, because I think a lot of people were a bit like, it was for a room of people that enjoyed their whiskey, and they missed out because it was a cracking night. But I think people basically said, I can get Glenfiddich off the supermarket. And it comes, as we talked about this last week with Sam Barber on the episode, Glen Murray, and you say, it's such a hard thing to do. But at the same time, from a marketing, I'm coming at it from my perspective, but from a marketing perspective, Glenfiddich sells all over the world.
Yeah.
Why are you worried about what people like me are saying?
And
when you can say, I don't care, because I know that there's people in India will see a green triangular bottle with Glenfiddich 12 in it and go, that's my dram.
That's the thing I was going to say, is like, also, particularly in that situation, that sometimes, you're in India and someone's going and buying a Glenfiddich 12. That might be the pinnacle of their whiskey for at that point in their lifetime. And when I do tastings, you always got to stay humble and keep to your roots in a way that, should I bring the 12? Because everyone's maybe arrogantly, I don't know, but or they've tried it, or they're not going to be interested in it, and all this sort of stuff. So I suppose doing the experimental range was really like brilliant. I think in that affordable, unique, different, and saying, okay, some people may think we're boring. I obviously don't think that, and and I think you got to get people to come back and try. And with this one, there'll be F1 fans who are like, oh, go buy it, brilliant, fantastic. And then there might be some of the geeky guys like, okay, maybe a bit pessimistic about the collaboration, the marketing side 100%. Of it, and then go try it, and hopefully, it was, that.
Yeah,
I can appreciate that.
I would say there's a world where if I didn't, and I love the Glenfiddich brand, and I'm not just saying that, but there's a world where it would be very easy for me to slip into cynicism here and be like, why, like, look at them, they're just there's two brands that are associating themselves together, and it's mass marketing, and as I kind of joked earlier, was it Las Vegas or was it Hollywood? It was Las Vegas. not Hollywood. I might go there wrong.
Las Vegas, yeah.
Las Vegas for the launch, and I remember seeing the videos and what have you. And there was critics, and you mentioned earlier on, some critics would sit there and say, "Why can you associate an alcohol brand with a car brand when you're encouraging drink driving?"
Yeah.
You're not. Get a life.
Yeah.
It would be very easy to bypass this whiskey. I will have been guilty of bypassing this whiskey. You brought it in, we've tried it.
Yeah.
The
it is only 2 weeks old.
Well,
so 2 weeks of being out. So you're
right.
Okay, so you may,
but like I say, would I go if I saw it? I would see that gimmicky and what have you.
Sure.
But actually, and again, it goes back to I've done bottling projects with other brands and stuff like that, where we knew at the time of doing the bottling, you could stick anything in that bottle.
Yeah.
And it's going to sell. It doesn't matter.
I mean, that's
right.
True.
And I think that but if you have a brand and you want to stand up to that brand, what you've done is you've stuck some very cool whiskey in there.
Yeah, and interesting enough in the way that people were like, you know what, I would have thought there would have been some European oak in there, or because there is like a slight tannins in there. It's not overly. I wouldn't say it's a whiskey at all, but there is like slight tannins in there. Yeah. But I get a lot of like caramel toffee baked, like those Halloween toffee apples sort of thing. That's what I kind of get in that. And we talked with other Formula 1 teams, and we wanted someone which actually had British heritage. Yeah. Aston Martin has that. They launched Le Mans, and it's just in terms of a racing career, and so it's quite nice. It's and when you, sadly, I didn't get to go to Silverstone this year. Wasn't invited, but next year.
Neither were we. So
there you go. But that's okay. But I was told like the event that they put on, like a lot of other brands were doing things, and the Glenfiddich one was just absolutely heaving. Yeah, because they were doing which is great, and that's what you want. And going back from a sponsorship point of view, you mentioned earlier on when I talked about the T-shirts, we were chatting before Braemar. Yeah. Well, this is great. Yeah, this is
And you actually
and the tattoo
as well, of course. So, but for like I love the fact that you're putting your brand, associate your brand with Aston Martin and it's Formula 1, it's global, what have you. But actually, seeing a big guy that weighs about 24 stone walking out in a kilt into an arena,
chucking a big stick,
chucking a big old log, wearing with Glenfiddich.
Yeah.
And there's something nice that's heritage as well, isn't it? Like definitely. You could say, that's Glenfiddich sponsor the heavies at the Braemar. Is there any? Is it just Braemar?
No, they do the circuit. Yeah,
the whole circuit.
Yeah.
And I would say from that. I'm putting my sports commercial hat on here in one sense, is that's supporting a historical sport. Yeah,
an amateur as well.
100% amateur. They still make a good. They still make a good bit of money if you do all right with that. By the way, if you toss the caber well enough and the hammer, I don't know the welly over I don't think you get much for the welly over the thing anymore. But you see these guys. I mean, they're huge, but they do the circuit. And you can say, so you suddenly say prize money for the heavy events at the Highland Games. Yeah. You can win about £500-600 quid if you win each category. If you put yourself in for 2 or 3 categories and you do that at 3 or 4 of the big Highland Games, you clean up no bad. And they train, and rightly so.
Oh yeah, they train.
To be able, it's not just big fat blokes turning up chucking stones. No. They train a hell of a lot. So to put yourself on the put yourself on that. That's a huge thing there.
It's the longest standing sponsorship that we've ever done.
Really?
The heavies, yeah. It's like over 40 years.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's crazy. And we're lucky. I think Grandpa, he was very much loved his Scottish heritage, did everything that he could for the communities that he worked in. And one of them, he just loved the pipes. And so he helped, set up the piping centre in Glasgow. Right. And so that's what was brilliant about us sponsoring the tattoo this year, is actually bring it full circle. And that, I don't know if you've been to the tattoo or not, but I would recommend, I can invite you next year if you'd like to go.
Please do.
Yeah. But in terms of like that side of it, the pipes, the fiddles, all that, he was such a huge fan of it. And that's what he would, that he would give to charity, and that's what his sort of thing. And so he's hugely influential on me. And you're talking about why I came into the business. It's almost, we talk about this sort of handing over the Olympic flame and such to the next generation. He originally didn't want to be in the business. His father on his deathbed asked him to.
Really?
He's 25.
Because it goes back to what I was saying. There's some people that will look at it and go, it's
25 not. As well, man.
Yeah.
So it's
a lot to put on someone.
Yeah, his father.
Just incidentally, sorry. How did your grandfather feel about podcasts, whiskey podcasts?
I reckon he would have not come on, sadly.
Really?
But
do you think he would have been in for sponsoring? I think he would have
there's
said,
there's a few videos of him, but again, it's normally talking about piping.
Yeah.
There's most of the stuff that
because
you
the
see.
media side of things has
If
changed.
only the people were here.
I know the fiddlers thing. But anyway, so
You would love that. You would love that.
So his father, your great grandfather,
Yeah.
on his deathbed,
Yeah.
speaking to his son,
Yeah.
25 years old,
Yeah,
and actually
something like
trying
that,
to
yeah.
convince him to say, take
Yeah,
on the
because he was a mathematician. He was he went to Cambridge, very very academic guy, but his father said so, he had to. And so I always, well, one of my drams is about that story later on, so we'll go to it. It's a bit heavy. We're heavy for now. We're going to have the heavy stuff later on.
Well, but
yeah, so
I'm talking about the sponsorship we do. I just love. I love all three, and it's interesting talking to individuals around the company. You know, talking to guys down in London. Oh, Aston Martin's great, and then you talk to the guys in the Bottling Hall in Glasgow. It's like, oh, can I come to the tattoo? And it's like, so it's all different things.
And
so
I
it's
suppose
great.
as Scottish brand ambassador, you're looking at that and you're saying, like, you're looking at the Aston Martin thing. That's a global branding opportunity. Whereas actually, making sure that
from
people
local
back
market,
home,
local
people
market,
back home, because you do again, you feel an element of pride where you go, nice to see. You know, there'll be plenty of people who have benefited out of playing the bagpipes through the family heritage of the bagpipe centre that your grandfather helped set up, and even playing at the tattoo and stuff like that. And you just think, that's that again. Go on yourself.
That's it. That's it. And you know, that's again the reason why I wanted it was one, because I'm interested in it, and I just want to see the legacy of all the people who put the hard effort in decades ago to keep going.
Because I think Mark Thompson talked about that one of the first podcasts I think we did with him, and he mentioned it, where he basically said, you know, Glenfiddich at the time in Scotland was actually really far behind where it should have been, and it travels very, very well, but at the same time, people in Scotland, and the work that's gone on. So, from your point of view, being an ambassador within the Scotland area, is it hard because you're competing when you're in the, like we mentioned, India? There's like 7 brands on the back shelf.
Yeah.
In Scotland, you're coming into a pub like Diggers where there's 850 bottles.
Exactly. And I think, you know, let's not go over it too much, but victim of its own success, boo-hoo, okay, you know, but I think for me personally, if I'm doing a tasting or something, again, obviously it's all about the crowd, and sometimes it's relevant for me to tell who I am, sometimes it's not. And if I'm doing a pub in the Grassmarket who's got all the students in for the summer, probably not really. You know, and also, who cares? It really shouldn't matter at all.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
You know, I think sometimes exactly, it's the product. It shouldn't matter who's the guy behind it. And then sometimes I do, and at that point, sometimes we talk about Mark, excellent delivery. He is an orator.
Yeah,
we've got,
one of the best.
About, you know, a lot of my other colleagues, you know, Sean Fennelly, Alex Walker, Luke and Callum, absolutely just amazing gang, and they're all excellent. I can bring authenticity already, and I don't have to say a word on the way, so my delivery doesn't have to be as good in a way. So I don't have. So for me, in that sense, it's a little bit easier. But again, talking about the Glenfiddich. When I talk about the history and what we're talking about today, people are like, "Oh, I didn't know that," or "I didn't realize that." There's so much of it, and we're long lasting. You know, we're now, you know, as a family business, you know, it's our story. It's no, I mean, there's sometimes a bit of marketing, but I try to lead away from it. Sometimes if I'm doing it, but
which adds to that element, like you say, it goes back to the authenticity of the story, isn't it? Now, tell us one of the stories that we've talked about on this podcast before, but I want to hear it from yourself. The story we mentioned, Girvan. A great story in whiskey folklore about the story about how Girvan Distillery, which is your grain distillery, how that became to being what it is and how it was built and what have you.
So, great story. So this is 1963. Well, it got built in 1963, so it's probably just 1960s. Same time as Glenfiddich sort of coming out as a single malt. Now, every September, because they didn't have their own grain distillery, Grandpa and his brother Charles, Mr. Charles, who we'll go on to, they had to go to North British, basically, and say how much they wanted to buy.
So North British being the grain distillers,
Yes,
just down the road.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that'd be their annual. Would that be annual?
Yeah. But they couldn't. It's like, but if you couldn't then say I wanted less, or I wanted more.
Once you commit, you've committed.
Yeah, and so that was.
And this would be for producing grants.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was incredibly difficult for them because they weren't that independent. And I think it came to a point of them saying, we cannot supply you with any grain or enough grain, and Mr. Charles saying we wanted more grain, and so it came to a head. There's another story which I'm not entirely true of, which you might need to head out, but the other story is, again, like the pricing, all the big guys, and I'm going to say the men, it was all bloody men back then.
Yeah.
So in my family, all the men worked in the distillery, and all the women got proper jobs. So they're all doctors and lawyers. They're the clever ones. And all the men just worked in the distillery. So anyway, they decided around a table, like we're like now, we're not going to do any TV advertising.
This is a story I've heard.
We're not going to do it. Okay, guys? And everyone's like, well, some of us might want to do some TV advertising. I said, no, if you do any TV advertising, then we all have to do it. It's going to cost us money. So
this is the cartel that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. And they would say this, and they would go, okay, and everyone, and I think because at the time this is Grandpa and his brother, they're 32, 35, right, something like that, right? So it's a bit younger than us.
Were they the younger guys in the room then?
Yeah. And they were like, the guys like,
TV's the future, man.
Exactly. They wouldn't come on the podcast, but TV. That was TV. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, guys, gonna be colour soon.
That's it. So yeah, and so they okay, and so they went and did it, and I think they wanted to, call their bluff on it, and they then said, no, we're not going to sell you any grain. So that's another story. I'm not sure how true that is, but I like it.
That's the story I'd heard. The story I'd heard was that
badass.
The family members at Glenfiddich were saying, we're going to do a TV ad. And they were told explicitly, if you do a TV advert, you will not be supplied with any grain for making your... And they went, good luck.
Someone you might wish to ask is, I think, Mr. Morrison of Expo so Tim Morrison, who does Clyde Distillery. Because he was around that time. He's a bit younger than my grandparents, and he would have might know. So, see what he says. So that point, but again, Mr. Charles, my great uncle, my great uncle. It's tough. It's very difficult. My mate, I call my cousins.
It's like you got to call him Mr. instead of uncle.
Yeah, Mr. Yeah. No, he's my great uncle. So then he was quite happy because then it kind of gave them the initiative that they had to go and either buy it from other people, which would be more expensive, or build their own distillery. So they looked at a few different places, and then they finally found this place near Girvan, and it was a dreek day, absolute dreek day. And Mr. Charles was like, why are we looking here? And he later on said it was the best place we've ever built a distillery. And it was on an old munitions factory. Okay, old munitions factory built pre-war. Okay. And do you know who built it?
No.
The Germans.
Really?
Yeah, the Germans built it.
Right.
Pre-war munitions factory in Girvan.
Crazy.
In 1938.
What?
Yeah.
1938. So
Yeah. So and they knew, well, if they built it, the foundations would be good.
Yeah.
So
solid infrastructure.
So it wasn't going to go into the ground. It was not going to subsidence or anything. So they built it there because they wanted to. It was cheaper back then to buy corn from America than it was to buy wheat from a field next door. So it would be boated over in cargo ships to the local.
Yeah.
And so that was and
is that right? So
was the Campbelltown port still active at that point?
It might have just been Girvan, I think. It might have been. Girvan's got its own port. I mean, you wouldn't know about it now, but I think it might have been there. Could be wrong. But the other thing is, again, they needed the grain, right?
Yeah.
They needed the grain.
They've got a time.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm assuming that North British have now effectively said to them, "You're not getting any more grain off us." So basically, whatever grain whiskey that the family had left over was what was left in the store. Yeah. Maybe being able to sweep up a little bit from other
and that's it. And I think
but the cost of that wouldn't have been.
But I'm also assuming if you're building a distillery, even if it was a kick in the ass that you kind of wanted that family at that point.
Yeah.
You want to keep budget as low as possible, and if
Yeah,
you can
of
buy
course.
corn
Yes.
for cheaper than
Exactly.
the field next door,
And
there's
it,
also
you
that
know,
factor.
this is so again late 1950s, early 60s. It was the economy wasn't great at the time, so a lot of, you know, particularly people built engineering firms wanted work, and so it was a reasonable price to build a distillery. And Mr. Charles, Grandpa's brother, he would make sure that everyone was working quickly because he didn't want to pay for any overtime wherever it was, so no one's lounging around having a cup of tea. And the way he did it was he went and cycled around. So a bicycle is very silent, and so after the first time getting shouted at from not knowing that someone was looking, telling him to get fuck on with it, right? And so at the end of it, in 1960, when they opened it, I think it was one of the last days that my great uncle was trying to find his bicycle, and it had been welded to the top of a warehouse. And I'm not sure it was before or after, but Mr. Charles was took it with good steed and gave it all the workers a bottle of Grants to take home with them after their big long shift.
And now, you know, Girvan being probably put to even more use on the back of the acquisition of Famous Grouse.
Yes.
Because that's where you look at look at the industry at the moment, and you look at the way things are shifting and stuff. And for Edrington to move to let the Famous Grouse, what a brand!
It's really
a brand.
It's almost like the two sides of the same coin. Like, complete difference would be Monkey Shoulder as a really good showcase of like bourbon maturation blended malts, and I would think of personally as like the Naked Grouse as a really good showcase of a blended malt using sherry cask maturation. It'd be really interesting to see what happens.
The famous, I take it now, is that all Famous Grouse is now 100% officially William Grant & Sons.
100%.
So now every bottle sale that is happening.
So we bought stock, and also I think there's a lag period of who's making it, but yes, that's
fascinating. I mean, when you look at that in the whiskey industry as sort of whiskey breaking news as such, you look at that brand moving.
Well, particularly in the UK.
Yeah.
So you got to think like grouse globally isn't as big as you probably think because it's so big UK.
It's big. I mean, I suppose it's funny. You'll be sitting there going, "Well, we're Glenfiddich, and Balvenie, and Monkey Shoulder as well. I should say as well. Yeah. There's only going back to the Indian market. There's Woody Tan, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
And thank you very much, Woody. Right. Appreciate that. A medicine bottle with Woodrows of Edinburgh on it. Thank you.
Char bit in there as well.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much, Woody. Appreciate that. That's the second time you've done this on the podcast. Wow, a Woody Tan.
It looks nice.
Drop it in. It's a special thing.
Oh, very nice, Ben Nevis. Okay.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll try that later, Chuck.
Cool.
We'll have a wee dram of that. But what I was going to say is, Glenfiddich. Monkey Shoulder, I was saying there. Monkey Shoulder, I think there's in the Indian market, if we were to look at that as a global sort of bar, the blended malt side, I think it's Copper Dog and Monkey Shoulder are your sort of two biggest ones when you look at that going there. Then you've got the Grant side of things, and now you've got Famous Grouse, massive in the UK.
Yeah.
Global
number one in the UK.
Yeah, it doesn't travel very well, I suppose.
I think it's big in France, big in Sweden.
Yeah, really?
So yeah. So this is an opportunity for us, I suppose, to expand that brand because as you said, what a brand! What a brand it is! It's made, and for the Scottish rugby fan or just for the local guy in Glasgow, it's just like this is.
And some very good adverts over the years as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the Iron Brew of whiskey. That's what I feel.
I would say.
I mean,
there isn't a single person. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. Who doesn't like it?
What world would you? I mean, there will be somebody somewhere probably, but the world that you grew up in, where if your grandparents or some sort of relative didn't have grouse in the cupboard, and it wasn't used as a whiskey that you get, and honestly, it's such a heritage brand of Scotland. Like you say, the adverts.
But you think that you just sang it, right? that's however how many other whiskey theme tunes could you sing?
Exactly.
None.
Exactly.
None.
And we talked about this on one of the very, very early episodes about that. I'm sure it was that. And I went back and I looked, when was the last time that advert was actually played on British television?
Probably the 90s, I imagine.
So when you actually think about it from a historical point of view, the fact that people of a certain age, I mean, there'll be people in their 20s who maybe listen to this that are going, what the hell are they talking about?
What are they talking about? Yeah.
But at the same time, there's people, we're in our 30s, and we could sit there and go, and there'll be people older than us, and maybe a wee bit younger than us, that will be able to go, oh, that's a song from The Famous Grouse. But when was the last time that advert was probably
I think it's, you know what, I think it's probably, it's Christmas time, and that's when you get it. That's when you see it. But yeah.
What you've just, what are we drinking
So
here?
this is very, for me, this was bottled on my 30th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Because it's my cask.
Oh, wow.
And you two are the first people, not even Brian Kinsman and Master Blender has tried this. and neither have I. So I thought I would just, I asked for some samples because I thought it'd be good just to chat through. This is young. Okay, so this is, I'm only 36. Thank you. So you could probably guess how old it is.
Yes.
Yeah, so 6 years old.
It changed like completely from putting a couple of drops more in that.
It needs. Well, it's 63%. So it's a refill bourbon, and I thought, we're going to try an older. We've had a 27-year-old hogshead, and now this is good for a 6-year-old, just to see what we like.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
No, cheers, guys. Yeah.
Cheers, thank you.
Well, and also I just want to hear what you think because you guys know the first
It's
one to try it. Yeah.
It's
but no, I didn't. I kind of didn't want to come on in here and flout that I've got a cask or whatever it is. But I think it just as more purely. Just as a bit of fun to have a little try of something, and as young, you're not going to get a 6-year-old Glenfiddich.
No, exactly.
So just to see what the color profile and the.
I mean, you could have sat here and talked about it and not brought a sample on. So you brought a sample, and so it's absolutely fantastic.
I mean,
I wanted to try it as well. It's more. I was more selfish on me.
I gotta say though, the amount of flavour on that for the colour, that looks.
I mean,
like,
colour's nothing really,
that
is
looks
it?
like new make.
Really,
like I mean,
But even the maltiness that you're getting from the new make, it's not harsh or anything.
I've filled casks and then had to disgorge them that have had more colour than that, and the amount of flavours in that is absolutely.
I suppose it's refill, so again that's probably adding to it. But again, I like the refill side of it. One because it could last longer in the cask. We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
Could last on the cask depending on what I wanted to do with it. But also I think just having more spirit forward flavour profile. I mean, like you get, if you were to guess, you still get those those apples and pears, which pure.
It really sings that kind of orchard fruit.
Thanks so much.
No, it's good.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah. I really appreciate that.
So the Garvin site then, that's now been running since the 1960s.
1960s, yeah.
And it's just churning out. It's interesting you talking about that. I'd never known what you'd said about the fact that corn, maize, and what was cheaper to buy in than what it was back then. Because I've heard people talking about that when you're trying old grain.
Yes, and I love old grain.
And old grain is fantastic to try. But when you're trying it, you get a different. When you get pointed out that is because the grain that you're using there was made using corn, maize.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, have to say the bottles you guys released of Garvin, like obviously the number
Peyton
4,
still,
the number 4 apps, and that 25-year-old you guys did for years was class.
Amazing, so good, so good.
Who's we've had an indie bottler, Garvin, on here.
You can find them.
There's
you can
quite
find
a lot.
them.
It might be Woodrow's.
Cadenheads have done some great ones. I think.
Was it Woody or was it Fragrant Drops? It might be Fragrant Drops.
Fragrant Drops have done a few of them.
Yeah.
I think Woody's done a few. I mean, the. Oh my god, I'm blanking on the name. Tricara guys have done a few of them as well. And SMWS have done some crackers as well. But Garvin does some great stuff. I've mentioned on the podcast before, but I had a 9-year-old Garvin, I think about 64%, 65 that was in red wine casks.
Oh wow, that's probably going. Thinking of either it was going to go into like Grant's wine cask or something. I would think,
Okay.
or maybe it was just for someone else and they didn't, well, for whatever reason. I don't know why.
I'm not sure, but I mean,
interesting.
the flavor was really, really cool.
Or an
But
experiment, yeah.
it was so like alcohol.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't think I've ever had anything quite like it because I could feel my cheekbones
Yeah.
like, after like one sip. But really, really good drop. And I think actually the last cask release from shop exclusive for Edinburgh was a 15-year-old Girvan. Again, I think that was an ex long row red casks that they did a double maturation of, and that was stunning too. But if I can, and I don't know how much information you want to talk about, but I'd really love to talk about Caninvi.
Yeah,
if at all
okay.
possible,
Yeah.
which is like the shed behind Balvenie,
Yes,
effectively.
exactly.
You did a couple of releases back in the day, all kind of 35 CL bottles, and then there was a release for a period of time. I don't know if it was an Amazon exclusive that was like the really,
I'm not sure about that. It could well be, but I'm
like
not
the
sure.
super biodegradable packaging and really, really cool.
Again, I think I'm not sure what the direction is with that. It's used obviously heavily in Monkey Shoulder as the space. Like, Monkey Shoulder used to be Glenfiddich and Balvenie and Caninvi, and now we're quite open about talking about actually we use other space side malts as well because because the success of Balvenie and Glenfiddich. Now, I suppose it's how you, again, talking about branding, how many malts do we need in the category? We talked about Elspeth earlier, talking about Caninvi. How does that fit into your portfolio, and what do you do with it, and what's the story behind Caninvi? Because obviously you go there, it's great.
Yeah.
And it was opened by my great aunt, and that would have been.
Couldn't be a doctor or a lawyer.
No, she was a lawyer. Yeah. No. Yes, she was a lawyer. Yeah.
Just a wee hobby.
No. But I think back in the day she wasn't allowed to graduate because she was female.
Men,
Really?
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
your
So
family's
studied-
so much smarter than mine.
It's studied law, but
Wasn't that? And so and she used to play hockey with he's the guy from Chariots of Fire, Scottish bloke.
Oh, Little.
Yes, Eric Little.
Eric Little.
Yeah.
God,
Things like,
Angus would be so proud that I was able to get that, get that right so quickly.
Amazing. And a very amazing woman. And we talk about House of Hazelwood.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of that. It's one of our sort of brands. And her house was House of Hazelwood.
Ah, okay.
She lived at Hazelwood House, and she died there at the age of 110.
What?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
110.
Yeah. She was the oldest woman in Scotland.
Wow.
Whoa.
Which is impressive. And I remember, her at 100, still 105 even, still very much with it, and just incredible.
She opened Caninvi then, yeah.
She opened Caninvi, yeah. Jeez. Incredible woman. I remember, as a kid, it's one of those memories, the fire on. I don't think that my legs could touch the ground, having a chat with this lady who was just, and I was almost in awe. She was this incredible woman talking about stuff, and she was born in 1901, so she lived through 2 world wars and all this stuff. And she always said, war never solved anything. So, which right now we could probably she needs to be back here. So, an incredible lady, and again, but it's sort of
and a big part of the family history.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, it's very easy, like you said.
Yeah.
You said earlier about the tongue in cheek. I'm sure, the men worked in the distillery. The women got real jobs and doctors and lawyers and what have you. But there's a lot to be said for every male that was working in the family business. There'd be somebody behind that female there,
exactly,
and for that to be part of. Now, we are sort of fast approaching the time where we do ask for your what 3 drams. Yeah. I just want to quickly go over a couple other things. Ross has asked me to ask you, why is Glenfiddich 12 so popular?
Why is Glenfiddich 12 so popular? I think, we always talk about approachability. I think if you've got something sweet, light, fresh, it's got those vanillas, it's got the caramel, but then it's, you can get the pears in there, the apples. It's just so approachable for anybody. So anyone, how it's like trying to get some people into whiskey can be tough. And I think sometimes we go down the rabbit hole of Glenfiddich being that sort of starter dram, which I think is a bit unfair in a way. But, I'm very lucky to do a lot of tastings, and I bring the Grand Cru, the 23-year-old we have, out to basically most of them because you don't know who's going to be there. Someone might be there for the first time having a whiskey tasting like yourself when you were younger, or or more of a connoisseur in inverted commas, and you open a bottle of that, and it's just absolutely fantastic for everyone. And I think Glenfiddich 12 is like the sort of understudy in a way of it's just been so approachable.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about building brands. You can build a good brand. That has been done in the past. I think the whiskey that we try at 12-year-old is just, it's just special in that sense. It is quite, you know, it's what, 85% bourbon-ish, 15%-ish European oak, married together after 12 years. And it's been like that since 2000.
Yeah.
You know,
and the job Brian Kinsman must have to do.
Yeah.
We've talked to a few like blenders, master blenders. We've also had Jake Adcook as well as assistant blender at Ian McLeod Distillers. And you forget the job that a master blender has to do to create that consistency. Yeah. But then when you put it on the scale, can you tell me?
Well, I can tell you how we do it.
Okay.
Anyway, so we'll be quick. At the distillery, every day there's 10 people. It could be a guide, it could be a cooper, it could be someone in the accounting department, wherever it might be. They all get trained up to be a noser of the spirit.
Right.
And so every day, at least 10 people, there's about 30 people on site who are trained to do it. Every day, at least 10 people have to go in, and they go in and they have to nose, and they say, all right, this is X, this is Y, in terms of is it of the quality that we're wanting? Is it of the spirit character we're looking for? They'll go do that, and then releases of maybe and of other things like a 12-year-old would come in as well. So aged spirit and new make spirit. Anything that gets flagged will definitely get sent to Brian, and Brian does send things back that you said they've missed something, but that's quite rare. And it's all done blind, so you don't know, and they spike it sometimes.
Oh, really? So they put a wee thing in just to make sure.
So everyone's on their toes.
So when the accountant's really, really busy, like, I've got too much to do.
Exactly. That's fine.
Yeah.
And so then, so if you strike out a few times, you're asked nicely to leave. You don't get sacked from the company, but you do.
That's you off the tasting panel.
It's off the tasting panel. Yeah.
Wow. So like the whole business is involved. Yeah. Everybody.
And so obviously the guides are very close, and we have fantastic guides on site. And a lot of them are obviously huge whiskey enthusiasts. Quite a lot of them are doing that. So
super. I mean, it'd be such a privilege to be on that kind of tasting panel.
At that level as well. And another part of the story that it's run all the way through the business. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, there's only so many people that are in the production side of it. Yeah. Just another question for yourself. You've mentioned you're the 6th generation, you said? Yes. 7th generation, already up and running?
Well, yes. I've got a 3-year-old, so she'll have to wait a few years, but we'll see what comes of that.
And like I said, do you feel like, looking at your life and through your ancestors and stuff like that, your daughter, you're saying, if she comes back to you and says, what's this family stuff, will that be a moment where you're going, right, sit down, we're going to sit and chat about it?
It's an interesting one, I suppose. There's all sorts to talk about in that regard. I remember Dad doing it. I probably was sort of early teenagery side of it and stuff, and I'm not sure when's the right point. I suppose every parent has to do that themselves, about talking about the family business, be it William Grant Sauls or any other family business. Talking about that side of it, it's a very good question. I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to deal with it. So thank you, Graeme.
No problem at all.
Oh shit! I didn't get my parenting skills are going to get judged on it.
I thought I'd go deep. With this one. What are we drinking right now? What was it?
So this is we're talking about. This is another limited edition, but this is our 31-year-old Grand Chateau.
Wow.
So it's a 23-year-old in American oak, some European oak, and then 9 years in a Bordeaux cask.
Super.
Awesome. So again, I get a lot of
that's amazing.
I think we talk about whiskey sometimes and overly wine, but you either have it in for a very short period of time, or you have it in a long period of time that it mellows out. And I think this is a really good.
Yeah, there's an element of it's like virgin oak.
Yeah.
There's
a virgin. Yeah, certainly
a virgin oak element where you either put it in, blast it, and get it out. Or you go, forget about it, and then come back to it and let the cask do its thing.
Yeah, lovely. This is a beautiful ground. I think one of the best things we do, and it's just
there's tannins on that. I get
the tannin's great, but I think again, the tannins are fantastic and they linger there and they're beautiful, but they're not. It's not punching you with full oak, but there's a nice balance there. They've done a fantastic job. Ryan's done a great job with this one.
Right, what 3 drams?
Yeah. So I'll go with my. I think we were talking about earlier about my bit more luxurious one. I was going to go with the best dram I've ever had from us. So I'm going to go with the Glenfiddich one. And brand. But it's one of those things like I've tried it twice. I might not be able to try it again. It was our 49-year-old archive, and it was just. It's like the 12-year-old, but on steroids or something. Wow. It's like this beautifully elegant, fully bourbon cask, must be refilled for that age. 49, 1973, absolutely unbelievable. That light apples and pears, but then that beautifully subtle oak and vanillas throughout as well, in a way that the texture on it as well, is probably a lowish ABV, but just lingers there, and it's just one of those opportunities. I did a tasting with Mark Thompson once, and then I did one recently at the Tattoo with Brian Kinsman, and we did it as the first dram of the evening, and first dram of the evening. Yeah, wow. We can think about the rest of them. It was very good too, but first dram of the evening, and just because it deserved to. I think we talk about it. Sometimes the first can be
a bit jarring.
Yeah. But when it's of that quality,
you could stick that in.
Yeah. And I think people have had a cocktail probably before as well.
Crazy.
So it's fine. That was just exceptional, and
how does a tasting go if you put something like that?
Where do you go next?
Everyone's just like,
I'll take you through it. So it was very lucky that again, as the brand ambassador up here, I got to do this tasting at the Tattoo just out around the corner, and these guys, they had all bought a 40-year-old whiskey.
All right,
a Glenfiddich.
Okay.
So we're going to put on a big of a show. So start off for the 49-year-old, as one does.
And whiskey number 2. Here's the 12.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that the youngest one we did was a 26-year-old. Fully matured.
Excellent.
No, it's just a Palo Cortado cask. So it's not even re-released.
Holy
really
crap.
Yeah, and I can imagine fully mature, a lot of European oak. It was beautiful. It was lovely, but not quintessential Glenfiddich. And then I think we did Chateau 31-year-old, which we're trying right now. So at least you've been a part of it, a little bit.
We're part of it.
Yeah. And then we did 40, and then we did the 50. So it's just so it was
a big old day.
That was the best thing I've ever done. It was the best whiskey thing, and I went
and the Tattoo as well.
It was just we had a private area for the band.
Nice.
It's fantastic.
I do have to say, having gone to a few Glenfiddich tastings, and I've been lucky enough to go to some of the more high end stuff. I think William Grant's are great at doing. This is a great whiskey, but it's not us, and it's not a route that we would want to go down to. But you can clearly see how this works, and the cask maturations maybe kind of really pushed it in the direction.
Yeah.
But this is why we wouldn't bottle it, because it doesn't stick to our core values. Sure. And you've got I really respect a distillery that can go, this is banging, but it's not us.
But it's not us. Yeah.
Fair. And that's a pretty bold thing to be able to do.
I'm going to say something else as well. I've said it on the podcast a couple of times, and I've said it, and it kind of comes out in the wrong sentiment, in the sense that in Scotland, so I've said it, people listen to this, I've heard this before, Graeme, but I remember hearing someone talking about golf in Scotland, and they said golf in Scotland's a classless sport, in the sense that we have community courses and local courses and what have you. There's obviously some fantastic golf courses that you can join and pay membership fees, but there's also council courses that anybody in Scotland can actually walk up and play around the golf. Yeah. And I'd say whiskey is probably the same in Scotland. You can travel the world. You've travelled the world. You've been around. You've been to India and stuff like that, and you've seen. And I think that the Scotch, in particular, single malt Scotch, in a lot of countries, even just south of the border, will say, if you drink single malt Scotch, you have to be of a certain. You have to be at this level. You have to be in this class area or what have you. In Scotland, you don't. And this is what's fantastic is you've just talked about the fact that you can say we did a tasting for people who had bought the 40-year-old, and in that tasting we had the 40, the 50, we've had a 49-year-old, and what have you. But at the same time, as a brand, you've also got a house dram.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the same for every
Glenfiddich
established
12.
brand. You know.
Well, it isn't because I'm going to say you're not saying this. A Macallan, for example, will only associate itself with prestige, right? Glenfiddich associates himself, and Balvenie associates himself with prestige, but also associates himself with the whiskey drinker, right? And you've got Grant's, the blended product. But then you've also got the Glen, and you've also got loads of other ones. But the big ones we're talking about, the Glenfiddich. There are plenty of people. A Glenfiddich 12 would be quite comfortable on an optics behind the bar.
Yeah.
Right, and you'll see it behind every single bar in Scotland, pretty much, and it's accessible. It's easy to go in. What are you normally paying for a Glenfiddich 12, roughly? What do you reckon?
£4.
Well, you are in here, yeah.
35 mils, £4.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad at all for a single malt when you look at it. But at the same time, accelerate the profile all the way up to 49 to all that. Even the fact that like the 16 you brought out.
I think that's what I was going on about. I think I'm really proud of the guys for bringing something like this out this year as
the Aston Martin
as our
one,
new
yeah.
We got MPD, new product design, at a £75, 16-year-old.
And I take it as an Aston Martin release, it's a premium version. Is there is that?
Yes, there's a 65-year-old. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I knew that would happen.
As you do.
But the point is, it's not exclusive. Like, we're only bringing out if you like your F1, if you're into your Aston Martins, we're only targeting the people that can probably afford to buy an Aston Martin and drink. Whereas actually, if you're an F1 fan and you like Aston Martin and you like whiskey, then we've got a £70-odd bottle that is accessible to the most mid-market brand, and it's cracking. It's cracking out.
Just purely out of curiosity, is 65 the oldest age statement Glenfiddich's ever done, or is? I don't.
You're putting on the spot here. I think it might be.
I don't think I've ever.
I
mean, I've seen 50, but I can't think of.
No, I think. I haven't even thought that. I think it potentially yes. Yeah.
We're going to have to crack on this. This will be a two-parter. Dram number 3, and we're in for the long haul.
I'm glad I've lasted this long.
Welcome to part 2.
I just don't want to go home. My flat's been flooded.
Right. Dram number 2.
Dram number 2. Lagavulin 16.
Oh.
Whoa.
Because I remember we had this thing called Next Generation, as you can imagine. So it's when we get together as cousins. We used to do a lot more, I think, when we were a bit younger. So I was 18. So I was promoted to
you were in the drinking gang?
The drinking gang,
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sort of middle of the road of Sixth Generation. So, and we all went to Isla. And we went round. Did Brookladdy, Bowmore, Ardbeg, Kilhoman, when it was very young. So it was basically just opened.
Yeah.
And Lagavulin. And I remember I don't remember much about the individual of the Ardbeg, Lafroig and Lagavulin distilleries, because they're all quite same. But for me, as an 18-year-old, this is half my lifetime ago.
Yeah.
So my memory is foggy about that. But what I do remember is standing in the tasting room after going around the distillery and having my first Lagavulin 16, thinking, I love this. And it's quite unusual, I think, for an 18-year-old to actually probably, peaty whiskey generally, we feel like you get into it after a while. Maybe it's in my blood, I don't know. But that was that moment of I just loved it. So yeah. And then my third one is very emotional one for me, in that it was during COVID and Grandad had taken a fall, and he was in palliative care, so he wasn't going to be around forever. And I made a decision to invite my cousin to drive with me down to Dumfries. So he lives in Crocketford with my aunt and uncle, who took care of him for the last 20 years. So I thank them very much for that.
All right.
And we're just there, and he's not conscious, but we're just chatting away to him, basically thanking him for the entirety of his life and what he did and his sacrifice because we talked earlier about coming into the business and stuff, and all the things he did, from creating Glenfiddich to running the family business to all the piping stuff to he helped actually make the rules on Scotch, and as it is to this day. So he was and that was a heavy moment. But it was a moment which I shared with my cousin, and he's a big whiskey fan, and he's very capable. He's a doctor, so he's got a proper job. But he's a biochemist, and then he sent me a whiskey after it to say thank you, and it was a Tobermory 20-year-old from an independent bottle. I think it was called. I'll find out what it was for you, but and it had a peregrine falcon on it, and my grandfather was when he retired. That's what he did, bird watcher,
oh, really?
big bird watcher, and so it was just this thing of, you know, me and my cousin sharing that moment of seeing my grandpa lying there and thanking him to, you know, that was the dram which we sort of toasted that memory to.
That's really special. Man.
Yeah, and so it was, as you can imagine, an emotional time for me.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say thank you to my cousin for that, because it meant a lot to me, and I think it meant a lot to him. So that's my third one. Probably can't get it anymore, but you can find Lagavulin anywhere, so it'll be fine.
Dougal, fantastic. Thank you so much. And you know what? Like, talk about your grandfather. I suppose, like, if you're in a sixth generation of a family, the oldest generation is the person that you can probably get everything from. So your grandfather must have meant the world to you for that, and to pass, and been probably a big part of passing on everything through the family.
The hardest person to ask questions.
Me? Go him.
No, like my grandparents. I mean, I don't know what it's like with your family. My grandfather just passed away a couple of weeks ago, and it's actually whiskey related as well. I had a really lovely day with him. I had an event when I was working at Scotch at Glenmorangie, and I've told this on the podcast before, but my grandfather had a heart attack, and they actually had to resuscitate him in the ambulance on the way there. And I had been invited up to Glenmorangie. It was a 2-day trip, and I said, I'll do the first one. But the second one, I really got to go see my grandfather in the hospital. And then, and the first day, it was me and Scott Sunis, who now works as head of PR for Hibs. So
Fraser Brothers,
really
tough gig.
Really fallen on his face. But we went up, and to say that we got drunk would be an understatement. We drank Glenmorangie House dry to the point that we couldn't find any more booze at all. And I woke up the next morning more hungover I've been in my entire life. Had a private chef, and he was like, I can make you anything. And I was like, I'll have porridge, and don't talk to me. and got a taxi to the hospital to go visit him. And I walked in, and I said to him, I was like, I really hope you're not looking for any sympathy, because I'm fairly certain I feel rougher than you do. And he laughed and then cursed me out because he had broken ribs from where.
Oh yeah. Oh no, because you made him laugh at her. Yeah.
And then I asked for his drip, and he also cursed me out. But then I just had a really lovely day where I got to talk to him and ask him all the questions I never really had a one-on-one with. They're the kind of people that there's always a crowd around, or this. So to get those opportunities and to ask him about, what his time was like. He met my grandmother in Singapore, and they had their first kid in Singapore, and then came back to the UK.
Well, it's so funny. My grandfather was always very. My name is Frugal Dougal, right? Right. But my grandfather's probably even more than that, and that he was always very proud that it cost him £5 to court my grandmother, which was good, which was great. But
listen, Dougal, you've not been so frugal with the drams tonight. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
And what an episode! Thank you so much for coming in. It's been fantastic. I'm so pleased we managed to get this episode done. Thanks for the drams. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks for everyone who passes the pod, shares the pod. This is a cracker. Pass it on, share it, tell everyone about it. Big shout out to everybody in the Whisky Stories Facebook group. Keep the pod going. Keep the weekend dram roll call going. All the very best. Thank you so much. Cheers, guys. Sanjavar. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Brilliant. Right. Cheers.
Thanks, Woody, as well.
Oh, cheers with that.
Thanks, Woody, yeah.